there are numerous big games this weekend, and we probably won't have time to cover every game that I wrote down. So
let's get to the big ones.
Let's get to the big ones. All right. Now, I got Tampa Bay, Dallas written down, but I don't really know how I feel about that right now. I don't know how big that is. Both teams are 1-1. So I will tell you, Cowboys have won 4 straight games against Tampa Bay, but Dallas is 4-18 in their last 22 games when they rush under 100 yards, a.k.a. they need to rush over 100 yards. Romo in his career against Tampa Bay averages 302 yards a game with 11 touchdowns and no interceptions. The Buccaneers have been outscored by an average of 19.8 points a game during an 8-game road losing streak. They haven't dropped 9 games in a row on the road since they lost 10 in a row back from 1995 to the 1996 season. I think this is going to be a good game. I think it'll be similar to the Giants-Buccaneers game from last Sunday, just not as many points scored. But with that said, I mean, I don't really have much else to get into that when it comes down to matchup-wise and all that. You got Jets-Dolphins. I think this is a really big game when it comes down to the AFC East because you got the Patriots playing the Ravens, which we'll get into a little bit later. But the Jets and Dolphins, man, this is a pretty big deal. The Jets are going to have to worry about stopping Reggie Bush, who last week ran for 172 yards and 2 touchdowns, which was a career high. Ryan Tannehill recorded a 91 passer rating while throwing and rushing for a touchdown in the Dolphins' win over Oakland at 35-13. Now, the Jets totaled 384 yards and went 10 for 14 in third down conversions against Buffalo. At Pittsburgh, they only gained 219 yards and went 4 for 12 on third down. So, what Jet team are you going to see this weekend against Miami, I think, is the real question. Similar to what with the Cowboy game, what team are you going to see? You know, are you going to see the Jets offense that looked high-flying and moving the ball through riding on Mark Sanchez's arm and a defense that pretty much did anything they wanted until the fourth quarter when they pretty much just packed it in and stopped playing the game? You know, what are you going to see?
I think you're going to see kind of a mix of the two. I don't necessarily think that the Jets' offense is going to be explosive. I think they score enough to win this game, though. And I could see them possibly going to Tebow a little bit more in this game. Not that he's going to start, not that he's going to be in on even 50% of the plays, but I think they are going to use him a little more than they've used him in previous games. Try and get him going, try and give a jump start to this offense in a way.
And you got to hope that they do. I mean, Tebow looked pretty good last week against Pittsburgh. I mean, he didn't play much, but he looked pretty good. And in my opinion, I really think that you got to give the guy a chance to play more. You brought him in there, so why not play him? I'm not saying, you bench Mark Sanchez for, an entire freaking, quarter or anything, but you got to play him. You just have to. And I think that you will see more of him. I also think that what you're going to see is him come out there maybe lined up as a running back with Sanchez under center. Maybe something similar to what you saw last night in the Carolina game where you have, Tebow back there with 2 running backs. There's so many ways that they can go about it. They just have to go about it. You can't be worrying about egos. You can't be worrying about anything like that. Because when it really comes down to it, they have an opportunity to really not pull away, but to make a statement in their division to possibly take the division lead when you have New England playing Baltimore, who could easily lose that game. If they beat Miami, and then Buffalo, even if they win, they beat Buffalo head-to-head. So after 3 weeks, they could be on the top of their division. So this is a big game, in my opinion. Now, Sanchez has never played that great against Miami. 219 passing yards, 9 touchdowns and 4 interceptions while in 6 games against Miami in his career. He's 2-4, though, against them. These two teams have actually split the season series each of the last 2 years, and the Dolphins have won 2 of 3 in Miami following the Jets' 3-game winning streak in Miami. So I think it's going to be an interesting game. We'll get into picks when we're all said and done going through these.
I think Miami's best chance to win this game isn't necessarily having to stop the Jets' offense, because I think the Jets will stop their own selves. But I think the key is getting Reggie Bush going again. If he can have another huge game and carve up this Jets D line that just doesn't look quite right to me, I think that's Miami's best chance to win by far. They got to get Reggie Bush going.
Can't argue with you on that one. That's for damn sure. Now, let's move on to our next game. Trying to fly through this right now. The next game I got written down, that I wrote this down more because of the simple fact that, these are two teams that a lot of people, including myself, thought would be much more relevant, or at least look better than they have so far this year. You have the Chiefs at the Saints, two teams that are 0-2, two teams that a lot of people out there, not everybody, like Eric didn't think the Chiefs had a freaking shot this year. I thought they did. But two
How are the
teams
Chiefs doing so far?
0-2 and look like crap. Thanks for reminding me. That's what I'm trying to get to. New Orleans is 0-2 for the first time since they lost their first 4 games of the 2007 season. Their defense is terrible. Kansas City, defense is terrible. The Saints and Kansas City both have allowed 75 points through the first 2 weeks of the season. Saints are giving up 461 yards a game, including 186 rushing yards a game. That could be the determining factor in this game, because Kansas City is averaging 151 yards on the ground, which is 5th best in the league. So you have a bad defense in general, but bad run defense against a good rushing offense. That could be interesting. 9 out of 10 times, though, when you get that, usually the run game suffers because you go into the game thinking you're going to be able to do it. The other team knows they suck at doing it, so they go at you even harder. And 9 out of 10 times, that's what seems to happen when you have that. Now, New Orleans has lost each one of their games by 8 points apiece, so they've been in them, but they let teams build a lead against them, and then they're fighting all the way back. The Chiefs themselves, though, have been outscored by 17 a game so far. 34 total over the 2 games, averaging 17 a game they've been losing by. In the series itself between the two teams, New Orleans has won the last 2 meetings. The last time they played was a 30-20 win by New Orleans in Kansas City in 2008. So they haven't played since the last time they played the AFC West in the 4-year, division rotation. I don't expect this to be a pretty game, in my opinion. I don't expect this to be a very pretty game. Could be fun to watch, but I don't expect it to be pretty. I think this is going to be 2 defenses trying to show what they can do, and 2 offenses trying to score enough points that they're not the reason their team lost. I don't think it's going to be pretty one way or another. I really just don't. I don't know if you have any opinion at all other than busting my chops on my Kansas City prediction, but
I think you know how I feel about that. Who told you before the year that they were going to be no good?
I'll shut your mic off if you say that again. I'm just kidding.
They just don't have the firepower. I mean, I know they have Dwayne Bowe, but, Matt Castle's an average quarterback at best. Everyone's pretty much seen that now from him. He wasn't as good as he was in that 1 year he started New England. That's because of the system New England runs. It's just built around quarterbacks doing well. And I just don't think they have enough. I think Jamal Charles still is taking a little too much time coming back from injury. I think that they really haven't done much to get Peyton Hillis going. Tony Moyakai, who you were high on also before the season, hasn't really done anything yet. Only, I think, has 5 targets on the year, maybe 50 yards receiving. That's it. It's just I don't see Kansas City doing enough in this game to beat the Saints. Although I've said that the last 2 weeks I picked the Saints and they've lost. I got to figure this is the week they get back on track, though.
You know what? And I'm sure the Saints like to think exactly the same thing, that's for sure. Neither team looks good, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But on the opposite side of the spectrum, you want 2 teams that look good on the defensive side of the ball and haven't looked that good on the offensive side of the ball. Then we're going to jump to our next game, and that is the Philadelphia Eagles at the Arizona Cardinals. Both teams are 2-0. If Arizona actually wins this game, it'll be their best start since 1974 when they started the season 7-0. This would be their best start if they win this weekend. This is actually the first time both teams are 2-0 since the seasons in which they each last reached the Super Bowl. Arizona in 2008, Philly in 2004. Now, the Eagles are the first team in NFL history to begin with a pair of 1-point wins despite committing 9 turnovers. 3 more than the other team. So they're -3 in the turnover battle so far through 2 games. Now, I know that offensively neither team has looked that good, but if I'm going to like an offense, I'm going to like Philadelphia's offense over Arizona. I think that's pretty fair to say. I think I'll take Vic over Cobb. I think I'll take McCoy over Beanie Wells or Ryan Williams.
On both sides of the ball, on paper, the Eagles look better.
Yes.
Both sides of the ball. They look better. They have more playmakers. I just don't know if I see that going the way that maybe you do. I feel like I know which way you're leaning on this game, and I think we're going to lean differently.
We shall see. I mean, look, I look at this game as simply this. If Philly doesn't turn over the ball, they're going to win. That's how I look at it. I really do. Vic has 7 turnovers, including 6 interceptions, but he is averaging over 300 yards a game. This is the first time Philly's been to Arizona since they lost 32-25 in the NFC Championship game.
You got to think, too, that Cobb wants to make a statement in this game because the Eagles were the team that traded him. Eagles were the team that got rid of him. This is his first chance to come in and say, listen, let me show you guys what you gave up in order to keep Vic around.
Well, yeah. I mean, Mr. Backup, let's see what he can do. I have a hard time believing in Kevin Cobb still. Now, Arizona's defense, don't have a hard time believing in them, though. They've actually won 9 of 11 games dating back to last season.
I said that the other day, yeah, and they've won actually. They're 7-1 in their last 9.
Yeah,
or their last 8. I'm sorry.
That just shows you they're a tough team, but they do have the league's lowest ranked offense at 251.5 yards per game. And Kevin Cobb, since he's been playing, he came in the fourth quarter of Week 1, has thrown for only 206 yards, but has not turned over the ball. So he's played smart. Maybe not amazing, not wow, highlight reels, but he hasn't hurt his team.
Not making turnovers, which is the thing that's hurt the Eagles so far.
Yeah. So, but that's the one thing with this Philly team. They keep losing the turnover battle in the games, yet they keep winning the games. It's only 2 games in, though. So,
if they lose the turnover battle on Sunday, they lose the game.
Now, our anonymous 6411 believes Cobb is going to make Philly pay for them trading him. I apologize to everybody. I have not paid much attention to our chat room right now, but I think this is going to be a great game. I think Vic is going to have a long day, but I also think Kevin Cobb is going to have a long day. I wouldn't be surprised if this is 13-10, 14-10, something like that. It wouldn't surprise me at all. I don't think this is going to be pretty at all, but I think it's going to be a tough physical game. I know Fife threw in that he likes, defensive competition. Well, I think this could be one of those games for damn sure. So let's jump over to another game. This game, actually, defenses have not struggled at all. This is actually another 2-0 matchup of the Atlanta Falcons at the San Diego Chargers. Now, Atlanta is looking for its 6th straight win against San Diego. Matt Ryan's the top-rated passer in the league at 100 with a passer rating of 117.6, completing 70% of his passes for 518 yards and 5 touchdowns through 2 games. Now, Atlanta cannot run the ball to save their freaking life. Let's be serious. Michael Turner also looking at possible suspension for the DWI, but I haven't heard anything about it happening. So I believe he's playing this Sunday. If anything, he might end up being suspended next week. Not 100% sure on that, though. I haven't heard anything about it. But if he plays, he'll return to his old team. He played for San Diego from 2004 through 2007. Now, Atlanta's looking for their first 3-0 start since 2004. And San Diego hasn't been 3-0 since 2002. And this is their first time at 2-0 under Norv Turner, which shocked me. I always felt like this was the team that started hot and then ended slow. So I was shocked to hear they never started 2-0 under Norv Turner. I mean, I'm not the biggest Norv Turner fan, but I was shocked to hear that. I figured this team, I didn't look back at it, but I definitely thought I've seen this team start, 2-0, 3-0
They've
a couple times.
always been a slow starting team. So the biggest knock against them is they come out the gate slow every year.
So I have my thoughts mixed up on them.
Yeah.
They're not the Cowboys.
They're not. They're the opposite.
That you know what? You're right. I mixed that up on myself. I always thought they were the team that started fast and fell off, but you're right. Yeah.
I think even though the Falcons aren't running the ball well, their offense is still just outstanding, and I think that they're going to be tough. It'll be real tough for San Diego's defense. I don't think San Diego's played a team like them yet, so it should be an interesting matchup. Again, another matchup of 2-0 teams, but to me, it's pretty clear who the 3-0 team is going to be.
All right, fair enough. I respect that. I like it. I like how Atlanta's looked so far. San Diego's surprised me for the most part. They've put up 60 points in their first 2 games, only turning over the ball once. Their defense has only given up 24 points through 2 games. And they're actually the number 1 rush defense right now, San Diego, giving up only 41.5 rushing yards per game. That one surprised me. The one thing that I never looked at San Diego as was a really good defense. But you make some moves. You bring in Jared Johnson, the outside linebacker from Baltimore, to complement Sean Phillips. I thought that was a huge pickup for them. And for right now, their secondary's healthy. And I feel like they've had a lot of issues in their secondary staying healthy. But I think this could be arguably one of the best games to watch all weekend. You got two good offenses going against 2 defenses that so far have shown up this year, but defenses that I don't think many people out there are completely sold on yet. You're not sitting there saying, "Oh, dude, I do not want to play that defense yet." I don't think you feel that way about these 2 teams right now compared to like a San Francisco where you're like, "No, I much prefer not to go against them." So I like this game. We'll do game picks. We're only a couple minutes away from game picks. I got Texans Broncos. Huge game. Peyton Manning and his Denver Broncos. Now, the good thing for them is outside of San Diego being good in their division, Oakland's 0-2. Oakland's 0-2. Kansas City's 0-2. See, I want Kansas City to do so good. I forgot they were in the division because I didn't want to say they were 0-2. But so that's the one benefit Denver has, which is something that you did bring up before the season started, is that even though Denver may not, win more than 10 games, the division they're playing in, you might only need 10 to win the division.
You only need 10 to win that division.
You brought that up before the season started when we did our little division breakdown.
Yeah.
You mentioned the fact that 10 wins should take this division. So that benefits Denver. Now, Houston has looked like Houston. They've looked like the team everybody expects them to look like. How you hear so many people say they have their identity. Their identity hasn't changed, and they're going to keep it because it works for them. They run the ball, they hit you with play action deep, and they have a tight end and a number 1 wide receiver that they rely on, 2 good running backs. That is Houston, and they're going to punch you right in the mouth on defense.
Yeah.
Looking for their first 3-0 start for first time ever in franchise history. Texans ranked first in the NFL in total defense, only 196 yards per game, and scoring defense, giving up only 8.5 points per game. Now, let's keep in mind...
They're giving up more against Denver this weekend.
I was going to say, let's keep in mind who they played.
Played Jacksonville, and they've played...
They were home against Miami and at Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Should be only giving up around 8.5 points a game. So let's not get overly excited about that. They did force Ryan Tannehill in 4 turnovers. I know Peyton Manning had 4 turnovers last week. I don't expect to see that again from him. So I wouldn't rest my hat on that if I'm a Houston fan thinking, oh, well, we made Tannehill turn it over 4 times. We'll get Peyton too. Shut up. I'm sorry. You're crazy if you think that one. I do think this is a hard game to call, but the Dolphins look much better in week 2 against Oakland. Houston, the only NFL team that opened 2-0 in each of the last 3 seasons. But Peyton Manning has been dominant against the Houston Texans. Now, this isn't your same Houston Texans team that he got to play against when he was in Indianapolis. Let's be serious. That Wade Phillips defense has completely turned around what this team does. But he was 16-2 against them while he was in Indianapolis, compiling 110.6 quarterback rating, which is actually his best against any team that he's played more than 4 times. First matchup between these two teams since Denver rallied from down 13 points in the fourth quarter behind 2 Timmy Tebow touchdowns in a 24-23 win in 2010. I think it's going to be a great game. I think both quarterbacks are going to take some hits. I think you're going to see...
this is the best game of the weekend.
Do you? You like this better than Patriots-Ravens?
I do.
Which is the game I saved for last, and now I'm upset because I saved Patriots-Ravens for last because I thought you thought that would be the best game. So either which way, with that said, let's just jump into Patriots-Ravens because we've got like 8 minutes and we got to wrap up the show. I think the morning after show with Kaiser Now Money is coming in today. So, but either which way, Patriots at Ravens, rematch of the AFC Championship game from last year, man. A game that, you know, you're talking a Lee Evans not dropped. Baltimore goes to Super Bowl. A made field goal is game.
New year, new teams, though.
Oh yeah, no, I completely agree. Both teams are 1-1, and I highly doubt through 3 games anybody pictured either one of them being 1-2. But it's gonna happen. You know, Brady himself struggles against Baltimore. He has a 69 passer rating in his 6 career games against Baltimore, and that includes the postseason. By far his worst against anybody he's ever played against. But the Patriots have still won 5 of those 6 games, even with Brady struggling. And I think a lot of that credit is due to Belichick and game planning. This is a game where they have to feed Ray Rice, in my opinion. Even though Belichick's going to game plan for that, I truly believe you got to feed Ray Rice.
They haven't been doing that. That's the biggest problem, is he's only been getting 13 to 16 carries a game, and he's a guy you have to give the ball to at least 20 times. I mean, last week I think he rushed 16 times for 99 yards. You gotta give him the ball more than that.
I completely agree on that one.
That's the key.
He's the focal point of your offense.
That's the whole key to this game for me. If Ray Rice gets more than 20 touches, I think that the Ravens win the game. If he doesn't, I think that they're 1-2.
All right, fair enough. I just put in the chat room for Fife to call in because I am pretty much going to read this, and then we should get into our game picks. The Ravens haven't dropped back-to-back games since a 3-game skid in 2009, winning 13 straight following a loss. New England itself hasn't been 1-2 since 2001 when Drew Bledsoe was still starting quarterback, and it was the year Brady took over, but he didn't play in any of those first 3 games. And then Baltimore has won at least 2 of its first 3 each year since 2005.